here. We'd like to start our meeting. We're honored to have retired Reverend Alex Wilkie from the American Baptist Ministry here. He's also representing our great Interfaith Council. He'll lead us in our invocation. After our invocation, we have our Under-Sheriff James Stanley, who will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Let us pray. In these moments, O sovereign God, let us be content in surrendering our wills for this county's safety this day. Speak to each of us in clear echoes of your will. May the intellect given to us be used today. Give to us now, O sovereign Lord, a vision of all that this county can be. Enable us to see those needs and focus on how to meet those needs. Bless all in attendance this day, O Lord, our God. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's always a great way to start the meeting. Our first item on our agenda is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is non-debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve today's consent agenda, consisting of item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for September 16th of this year through October 6th. Item B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of September 15th, 2020. And item C, consideration of administrative adjustments for personal property. Item D is for consideration of application for property tax abatements, of which there are 3. And item E, consideration of application for settlement or deferral of property taxes, and there are 2 of those.
I second that motion for the consent agenda.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve our consent agenda for today. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. On to our regular agenda. We have 2 items. Our first 2 items are pretty exciting items and presentations. Our item number 1 is a presentation, a recognition of Joyce Kelly's introduction into the Tourism Hall of Fame. Kevin Lewis, if you wouldn't mind coming up and introducing Joyce and telling us.
I don't know if Joyce needs an introduction.
I know.
She is incredible. Joyce has been with the office for almost 20 years now.
Yep.
And over that time has done just some remarkable things, specifically in the international marketing world. And her peers nominated her to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that was voted upon by the Utah Office of Tourism Board. And so we're just excited that we've got someone of that caliber in our office. It's hard to keep up with her enthusiasm and passion for what she does. She's done remarkable things for Washington County, and we're excited to congratulate her today.
I think it's great that we know all the great work that Joyce has done, and especially during that. I think of the stories when during the downturn and when the parks were shut down, and her work going across the globe, really. And I think it's just wonderful that her peers in this state understand her contribution to tourism on the statewide basis.
Yeah, that's what's really neat about this is people recognize the work that she's doing, and she's been recognized for it, and it's well deserved. So Joyce, come on up and
I want to talk a little about this too.
Yeah.
So I've known Joyce for a long time, but I really took notice of Joyce when we had the first park shut down many years ago. And I found out that Joyce has a passion for what she does. And she came over, I was the county administrator, and she explained how she lines up these busloads of tourists, and she's got them all in the pipeline. And we have to do anything we can do to get the park opened. And just seeing that passion and how seriously she takes her job and the zeal that she undertakes it with, it was just really refreshing. I'd like to speak a little bit, too, about this award, and I think we probably all ought to go down and hand it to her, and maybe we can get a picture of Joyce and her family, or Kevin, and as many pictures as they'd like. But she's in really rarefied company receiving this award. This was presented at the UTIA, which is the Utah Tourism Industry Association, has an annual conference, and she was recognized with notables such as Val Hale. Some will remember him from his days as the athletic director at BYU, and others his work at GOED. But both Val and the other recipient were retiring. And so that was kind of a pat on the back because, hey, we're not going to see you anymore. Joyce is being recognized just because she's Joyce and an extremely hard worker.
And we're not letting her go. So.
Don't let her go. Don't let her go. So congratulations, Joyce. This is well deserved. Let's give her this.
Do you have anything you'd like to say, Joyce?
Well, no, I'm just very grateful that I was able to do a job that I truly love, and that's to be a storyteller for Greater Zion. And I'm also very blessed that I live in the most incredible place on this planet. You know, to call Greater Zion my home, Washington County, is a thrill of a lifetime. So thank you.
Thank you. County, Utah, 2020. But I'm going to expand on that a little bit. It was for the entire state of Utah. She's had a huge impact statewide. Take the talk and hold that. There we go.
Maybe one of our granddaughters.
Yeah.
Oh, and Brittany. Okay, no, David, want to get a pair? Yes, we'd like you to be in. Yes, yes. Aren't they beautiful? I have 8 more.
That's one thing that
Maybe Brittany and Kevin.
Oh, sure.
What'd you say?
I was just going to say that one of the amazing things about what Joyce does, she travels all over the globe, is gone most of the time, and somehow still is able to maintain this super grandma status.
Yeah, super nana. Yeah.
The one thing I've always noticed about Joyce, and I have to admit, somewhat limited interaction, but she just has this intensity and passion, and it shows, and it's great to be, the job that she does. So thank you again, Joyce. Our next item on our agenda is also recognizing. It's along this same theme of recognizing the wonderful employees in this county. And as a county commissioner, I come to work and I just feel blessed to be able to be a part of this. And a lot of times I feel trapped in the offices behind us here. And there are just tremendous employees across this county that are making it happen every day and just doing great work. And I want to thank them. And today we're here to kind of acknowledge some years of service. We're so blessed that our employees stick with us. They have passion, they have commitment to this county, to the people of this county, and we just want to talk about some longevity awards. And so my understanding, we're going to have their department heads come up and introduce them, and talk a little bit about them. We have a certificate that we hand out, and there's also it accesses them to a catalog that they can go and get something. When I became a commissioner about 6 years ago, we used to hand out a clock, this clock that people would put on there. And I just thought, man, that's kind of a little, it just reminds you of all the time you've spent at Washington County. And of course, that wasn't time that you spent with your family, but we know that when you work at Washington County, it's all family. It's all part of the life experience. So with that, are we going to have our county attorney come up first, or our library?
Why don't we do it
Okay.
like that?
Well, very good. Eric Clark, our county attorney, will come up, and we have 2 awards, Jana Mock and James Wheat, and their service. James has worked for the county for 15 years, and Jana for 35 years.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'll start with Jim. Jim, if you'll come up. These guys are really excited about this. You can tell.
Do we get to cross-examination?
Yeah. So Jim is one of our more experienced prosecutors, and he's at his 15-year mark with the county. We appreciate Jim a ton, and we lean on Jim. And just in the last few months, he is he's trained several prosecutors over the year and does a great job. One of the new prosecutors we'll be hiring will be teamed with Jim, so Jim can be his trainer. Jim's also taking on a 5th of the special victims cases in our county, which is the gentle way that we say our sex crimes and our murders. So he'll be taking on those as a new assignment also. So we trust Jim, we appreciate Jim, and are glad that he's with us.
Well, thank you. So just how long did you serve out? How long you been out of law school? I mean, did you come to? Okay. Well,
I can tell you this, Jim is fearless.
He is.
He came on an airplane ride with me once, and so.
Well, please stay up front because we're on a picture, but invite Jen up. Yeah, stay right.
And Jana, so our office turned out to support Jana today. We love Jim too, but our office really turned out to support Jana. I called HR and I said, who's the longest tenured full-time county employees? And Janet, 35 years, once our wonderful recorder who's not running for office this year steps down in December, Janet will be the longest tenured county employee. And, that's cool in and of itself. But what's really cool about Janet is I was talking to Tammy and Ryan, who are 2 of our go-to people in our office last night. I said, what do we say about Janet? And they just said, say that she can't ever leave because we won't function. Every once in a while, I'll cover the front phones at our front desk. And without fail, whenever I do that, a call comes in, or several calls come in, and I'll pick up and I'll say, Washington County Attorney's Office, and the officer on the other end, you can tell they're an officer, is like, where's Jana? Where's Jana? And I'll say, well, she's in staff meeting or she's doing something. She'll be back soon. I'll call back when she's there. And they hang up. They're not interested in talking to someone who's going to mess everything up. But they know that Jana handles stuff and runs stuff really well, and our office functions so well because of Jana. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Jana.
That was part of the deal is that she wouldn't have to talk.
Should we have all of them come up and then we'll give me the awards? Oh, right here.
Why don't we do it by the
Our next office is the sheriff's office. James Stanley is now Tyler Growers is not here, right?
Yeah,
Gowers?
So
Gowers?
Tyler Gowers is currently working at the jail. I made an attempt to get him here and was told no. So apparently we have a bit of a staffing shortage today. Nevertheless, just to tell you a bit about
Well,
Tyler.
that's just that just shows his commitment level to his job.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So he's getting his 15-year recognition, if I'm correct there.
Yep.
So in law enforcement, 15 years means you failed. No one cares until you get to 20. That's the reality. But so he wasn't super excited about coming, but I told him nevertheless, and he said, "Look, if you can get me out of here, I'll be happy to attend." Anyway, he's not here. So what I'd like to tell you about Tyler is when I was his lieutenant, he was my preferred go-to guy. If I needed a whole field, I knew who to call first because he would always say yes. And he did it with a smile. And if you were to walk in that door right now, he'd have a smile on his face. He is the most pleasant individual to be around, and he is a wonderful representation of the sheriff's office for us. And I'm happy that he's made 15, but I want 5 more out of him.
Well, tell him thank you for
I
us. Joel Tucker, library.
So I have one that's not here also. I invited Jane Mann. She has 30 years with us. She's one of our selectors and does amazing work. We spend over $500,000 a year on purchasing new materials for the library, and a lot of it is her. So she does a good job there, and a little bit on the shyer side. She's a librarian, so invited her out, and she said, will you accept it for me? I said, I can do that. But we do have David here. David Huskinson, one of our frontline employees. So when you walk in the library, he's one of the first people you see, and he does just great work working with the public and helping them feel comfortable in the library and feel valued. And we're glad that we have David for the past 30 years and however much more he's willing to give us.
Yeah, David, that's fantastic. 30 years. And long before I was a commissioner, I remember he's always worked at St. George, right? I remember going to the St. George Library and seeing him. Of course, just did a great job. Thank you so much for your service. So we do have an award for David. And do you have your family as well?
Get that.
Okay, very good.
Family want to take off? Take James.
We keep getting further away. Sorry.
Come on up. My wife Tina, my son Adam.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for your service. Huh? Pardon? Oh.
Not of us. But. Did you get the picture you needed? Wonderful. Okay. Thanks.
Now to the more
Those were
ordinary
fun.
stuff. That was fun.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Item 3 is consideration of purchase requests. Ray?
I believe Commissioner Renstrom referred to me as mundane one time.
Is that what he's...
Mundane. Now to the mundane stuff.
The non-exciting stuff.
I'm glad I didn't, say anything.
Well, he's not here anymore, so. The first few I have here are for tourism. The first one is for a co-op ad project with the Utah Office of Tourism. And this is going to be for $390,000. And the Utah Office of Tourism will reimburse us $240,000. The next one is for some Salt Lake City TV advertising. This is for 2 months worth, June and July, and that's for a total of $15,000. $875. The next one is for completion of the Snake Hollow capital project. There is $200,000 going towards the bike parking lot and $200,000 for the single track loop for a total of $400,000. And then moving on to the sheriff's office, this first one may be a little familiar to you. It needed to wound up being redone. Previously, we were gonna trade in some additional vehicles. They've decided to keep those vehicles, which raised the purchase cost. So this is for the revised version for 6 2021 Ford police vehicles for $43,048 a piece for $258,288 total. And then we have an existing trade credit with the dealership for $73,450, which brings our purchase price to $184,838. The next one is for replacement laptops 65 replacement laptops in the patrol vehicles. The ones they have are from 2015 and starting to break. So, and that's for a total of $129,935. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Very good.
James, question. On the old laptops, they may not be up to the standard that the sheriff's office needs,
They're wonderful laptops.
but what happens to them? Can they be donated to a school, scrubbed out, whatever
So-
we have in them?
Yeah, so typically they're wiped and then we use them elsewhere in the county where needed.
Okay.
Oftentimes they end up as different resources for county roads or whoever say they need a laptop, we end up farming them out somewhere else. But they're
And
very
if-
good laptops.
If
Super tough.
65 of them, I think it was, or so, 65, if we could make an assessment with IT or with our administrator where those might be used, and then any remainder be offered to even a school or somebody, I'd like that happen.
Done.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Very good. I did notice the advertising to Salt Lake City. If you ever drive from Salt Lake City to St. George on a weekend, you'll notice that advertising must be effective because it seems like everybody from Salt Lake City is on I-15 coming south. So I don't know whether to vote for it or not because sometimes it gets in my way. But anyway, it is money well spent.
Yeah, I saw it going up on Thursday, Greater Zion, on a billboard. It was changing, it was one of the electronic billboards, but you had your 15 seconds up there or whatever for.
Very good. Well, with that, any other questions on the purchase requests?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the purchase request as presented by Ray.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 4 is a public hearing for appropriation of funds to 2 for-profit organizations. This is in regards to tourism funds that might be given to for-profit for different organizations. Let's see, we are now in a public hearing, and to start off, Kevin Lewis or Brittany, if you would like to just tee this up for us. And then if any of the public are here and would like to make comments, they're welcome to.
So once a year, we open up our application process for for-profit events, and we had 2 apply, and these are recommendations that are coming from our Tourism Advisory Board after putting them through a scoring matrix that takes in several things, time of year, the type of event, where it's located, all different factors. And based on those factors, the recommendations for the Tourism Advisory Board were to fund the Red Film Market and Conference in the amount of $4,000 in marketing. And then for Grow Promotions, it's the True Grit Epic mountain bike event, coverage of about $12,000 for advertising expense.
Very good.
We're in a hearing, and I'd like to just make a comment so that the public understands how this process works. We don't actually give any money to the recipient.
Yep.
This is basically co-op advertising, where they have to commit to spend at least that much as well, building Washington County's brand and their event.
Yep.
They're not reimbursed until they bring back receipts proving that they've made that expenditure. And so this has an opportunity of becoming a win-win because the county is being promoted with part of their income, and the county is also promoting their event, part of our income.
Prior to the event being funded, we require a post-event recap, invoice, proof of all the advertising, samples of the advertising. So it's quite a process.
And the purpose of this meeting is to have transparency in this process, to comply with the state law. And
Regarding
so that's the reason we are in public hearing. If anybody here would like to come and speak, or if we have anybody on Zoom who would like to be recognized. Cheyenne, is there anybody raising their hand? Anybody else who would like to make a comment? Fantastic.
Are you Matt? Matt, thank you for coming, and I believe we have Simmer and Chacon as well. You may want to come just tell the public in this hearing what it is you're doing.
Do you want to come take about 3 minutes and just let everybody know kind of about your event and what you hope to accomplish, where your visitors are going to come from?
So we had a demographic last year. So we also do, our organization also does the Red Rock Film Festival. We started that in Springdale a long time ago. And we'll be in our 14th year in Cedar with that. But we had some films again here in St. George. We always had films in St. George. We noticed our demographics were distinctly different between St. George and Cedar. Cedar had roughly 30% of attendees from Cedar attend, whereas St. George had 3% of attendees attend in St. George, which meant, I got this idea in my head, we should really expand this, and if all these people are coming from out of the area, even if it's Salt Lake or, Springdale, we really need to expand this. So the Red Film Market is a new direction with our festival events. Sometimes we do a film series festival. This will be a film market. Be different from our competing market, which is the American Film Market, which is going to be all virtual this year because they're in Southern California. We noticed that Slamdance doesn't actually benefits by having their festival the same time as Sundance. The major difference between a festival and a market is a market is more to promote their films. This year being COVID, we expect to have a little bit more filmmakers that want to just present their films just to show them. And so we're excited to be here in St. George with showing more films than we've had before with the festival, but this is completely different. We have a lot of premieres, and we actually have films available to the public as well. So
even though this is your first event here, you have 15 years doing this event in Cedar and Springdale.
Yes, so we actually been here before. Predominantly, I believe in 2012, we had the Red Cliff Cinema with the film festival. And that's mostly competition, whereas what we're doing here, we will have a competition, but it's for the best hook. It's all to promote the films rather than the traditional festival that shows films in competition.
Very good. Well, thank you for kind of introducing us to your festival.
You can just go to redfilmmarket.com and that'll take you to another page, and then we have all of our films listed, except we have another 29 that are still waiting to respond. This is November 10th through the 14th. You had a question?
Matt, what's your take from your feedback from others saying, wow, you're actually interested in doing this when the rest of the world seems to be shut down?
Yes, so we're international, and we just got a response today, someone who wanted to go virtual only. She was afraid, and she just didn't understand that you can be there. You don't have to be there if you want to attend. We want to do promotion overseas. Unfortunately, we wanted to target Germany, and there's another country that they're going back into Spain, I believe, going back into a lockdown mode, and Canada too. So we noticed a lot of filmmakers said that they're going to be coming anyway. We assume they're from New York and some other places, which we're surprised about, by the way. New York and LA we have a concern about if they're going to be able to make it. they already booked a flight and coming to southern Utah. So yeah, there are some concerns. We hope in the future that we can be much larger and invite a lot more film investors, the film industry, a little bit more inclusive of areas that are still in quarantine mode or locked down or not an open state. That's the first thing that has to come out of my mouth. Utah is an open state. So I have to show them pictures how people are conducting their business like mostly usual. They're just keeping their distance.
Yeah.
And we are prepared for that, by the way. So we have 3 thermometers and...
Taking precautions.
Yeah, and it's got a response actually from Kayenta Performance Center. They said that they want us there, and they're taking precautions too. So we're not getting involved with businesses that don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a concern.
Very good.
Good for you.
Well, thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
Cimarron?
Guys doing?
Very good.
So yeah, a few new things about the True Grit Epic. I think a lot of people are familiar with the event. This will be our 11th year, and it is known as an epic, long, tough, and technical mountain bike ride. But the really exciting thing, we soft launched a stage race last year. So that is 3 days of gravel and mountain biking. It's, that I know of, the only gravel mountain race in the country, maybe in the world.
Do you go down onto the road, then back up onto the trails? Is that kind of...
It's 3 different disciplines, and so it actually encourages people to bring more bikes and stay longer. So rather than coming for a one-day event, this is essentially making it a week between the preparation and the event. So it goes Thursday through Saturday. Our stage racers will see the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve on the first day. They go out around West Mountain on the second day. They can choose to take what's a gravel bike, looks more like a road bike. A lot of times it has drop bars, skinnier wheels, but it has knobbier tires and better clearance for mud. Getting kind of technical. Yeah. And then a mountain bike has suspension, of which our course is highly technical. So doing it on the same bike is kind of tricky. The main part is that we're becoming more inclusive. So a person can do the full stage race, which is the big marketing push that we're doing this year to increase this day. They can do 2 days. They can do just a gravel race on Friday. They can just a mountain bike race, which they have the option of doing 15 miles, 50 miles, or 100 miles. So we want everybody to come, whether you're a crazy endurance freak or it's your first time, and enjoy this. It also gives us the opportunity to have a 3-day expo. So we're bringing them here, and then we want them to hang out in Santa Clara and hang out in Washington County and go to Zion and go to Snow Canyon and really come in. We have a worldwide audience. It'll be interesting to see if we have very many people coming from Europe, but we have about 50% that come from the East Coast, and they're willing to drive. They just bring their families in their van and have a good time.
Fantastic.
So if you haven't been, get a bike, get it ready, come on out.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Cimarron. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and close our public hearing and move on to item 5, which is approval of resolution.
Sorry, can I just read something for the minutes as far as the public hearing goes
Yes.
with electronics? So I just want to let the minutes reflect that all public comments have been heard and people have had the opportunity to be heard. Comments were taken or available by many methods in Zoom using the reaction icon of clapping or thumbs up or the chat feature, and by phone participation and by in-person participation. All methods have been monitored by county staff, and the public hearing was opened and closed only after everyone had the opportunity to make public comment.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Brian.
Appreciate that. Item 5 is Resolution R-2020-2656, resolution approving tourism advisory board recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak to that. I had an opportunity to attend that particular Tourism Tax Advisory Board meeting, and I really appreciate the scrutiny that the TAB board puts these applications through, and they look at the financial and economic impact. They take into account events such as Cimarron's that have happened for so many years that they've really acquired a large following. And I think that the decision and the amounts they made to award in this cooperative advertising are appropriate. And so I would make a motion to approve resolution number R 2020-2656, a resolution approving Tourism Advisory Board recommendations.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item 6 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2657, a resolution appointing Commissioner Gil Almquist to the 5-County Human Service Council Advisory Board. And this is just one of those boards that needs a county commissioner to serve on it. And Commissioner
Happy to
Almquist
do it.
has been doing a fantastic job, and I'm really excited about him serving on that board. I've had an opportunity to serve on it, and so I
It
think
was actually a lot of fun last time.
it is. It is.
You missed out.
I bet I did. I bet I did.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second your motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item 7 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2658, a resolution appointing a Washington County representative as an alternative representative for the Utah County Indemnity Pool annual membership meeting. So our insurance is an indemnity pool where counties come together to help fund our insurance, for sake of a better word. And we have an annual meeting, and it needs an alternate. Commissioner Cox is actually serving as our board representative, and this is for the membership meeting alternate.
Make that motion to appoint Dean officially to that position.
And I would be the
And-
commissioner.
And I
On the
would
commission.
like to include that we add Victor as the alternate.
Yes.
Very good. We have a motion and a
I'll
second.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item 8 is a consideration of resolution R-2020-2656, a resolution approving the execution of an agreement between Alpha Engineering Company and Washington County, Utah, to perform and design the construction of the watershed project plan and environmental assessment for the Santa Clara watershed, Dameron Valley, Diamond Valley, and the Shivwit Bands Pike Reservation of Washington County. Ron Whitehead, are you going to speak to this issue? Or Todd? I apologize if I sound like I'm speeding up, but we've had,
We'll keep it moving.
we have a certain time that we.
The
Red Mountains.
county's had a long standing relationship with NRCS. Have helped us a lot. What a lot of people used to know as the Soil Conservation Service is now the National Resources Conservation Service, and they have offered to do some additional work for us up in the Santa Clara watershed, which would include the areas you talked about. We were mainly concerned, of course, with Dameron Valley and trying to get flood protection in that area. This is the first step in that process now to do a environmental assessment and initial design drawings for those 3 areas.
Yeah.
There'll be no cost to the county. NRCS is paying for it 100%,
Oh, this is
as well as
important.
the construction. We'll probably be able to get 100% on that, depending on what we come up.
Was it 2 years ago or 3 that we had the really bad flood in Dameron Valley?
I think it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So this is kind of a follow-up on that to try to try to decide what sort of measures we might be able to do to mitigate that in the future.
Yeah, and this was our primary method of being able to fund
Yeah.
some actual construction projects.
I mean, I do have to congratulate you and others who worked so hard to do the initial mitigation. You went in, you cleaned out ditches, you put in additional drainage pipe so that hopefully we wouldn't have. It's hard though when you have that amount of water coming down in that amount of time,
Right.
and basically you have a valley that's
If
somewhat.
we have a similar flood until we get some of these other measures in place, we'll still be in trouble, but we can
Exactly.
take smaller floods.
Yep, super. Well, fantastic.
Todd, I've got a question. Is there anything you can do to stretch our monsoon season out a little bit? This year it was about 3 hours. I'm thinking when we had the Diamond Valley flood, it was 3 or 4 hours, and just
Yeah,
Seems like we get half of our rainfall sometimes in one event.
we're such a large county that we get 100-year storms somewhere in the county every year, pretty much. Because like the one that hit Cameron Valley was really only a couple of square miles. The one that hit St. George just a few weeks ago was just a couple of square miles. But when you've got so many square miles in the county, we're impacted by very large storms practically every year.
I know that poses real engineering challenges for you, and we appreciate all of the engineering work and the services that you provide for the county. Thank you
very much.
Fantastic. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2020-2659, a resolution approving the execution of an agreement between Alpha Engineering on these projects.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 9 is consideration of Resolution R-2020-2660, a resolution approving First Amendment to host venue agreement of Triathlon Corporation for Ironman. Kevin, I need you to help explain to me
What an amendment
this agreement.
This is pretty good, actually. So we had, in May, we signed a 5-year agreement.
Because
with
when I think
Ironman.
of First Amendment, I'm thinking of free speech.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, doesn't the Ironman already have, isn't that guaranteed in the Constitution?
They're taking a lot of liberty, aren't
Yeah,
they?
exactly.
Yeah, so this is an amendment to our 5-year agreement that we signed in May of last year, of 2019, with Ironman to host the race every year. With the COVID pandemic, we tried to host it in May. We're not able to do that, postponed it to September. We're not able to do that, and so we put the race off until 2021. What that meant is we just needed to readjust the contract to satisfy all of the partners and players in that. The good news is we took this as a gap year. Essentially, we just rolled everything forward 1 year, adjusted the dates, and the financial arrangement stays the same. So it's a really good situation. We just added another year to our contract and took 2020 off.
Very good.
Kevin, thank you for your quick response on that. I know that you've been preparing for a couple of years for this event. And then it seemed like you had the ground shift under your feet right at the very last moment. So I think this is really an awesome way to keep our position and just push that back 1 year. I know you spent a lot of time doing that. I would make a motion in support of Resolution R-2020-2660, a resolution approving the First Amendment to host venue agreement with World Triathlon Corporation for Ironman.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. If you wouldn't mind staying there, because you'll speak to the next item, which is consideration of Resolution R-2020-2661, a resolution approving release and indemnification of Cactus Communication, Inc.
Yeah, so we were under contract with Cactus as our agency of record to do the media buy and the creation and all of that work. When COVID hit, we realized that needed to change, and so we ended the contract with them. But as part of that, this is a document basically that we're saying that we have received all of the assets that we have created through the time that we've been working with them, that we understand what the legal requirements of those are, the copyright and all of that, and that we won't use them inappropriately, and basically indemnifying them of anything that we do with those assets going forward.
Very good. Super.
Well, I'll make that motion. And Mr. Chair, one clarification. So we're completely severed our relationship with them.
Yeah, there are a couple of media purchases and things that were already in place that will take place through mid-November, but everything else has been signed off on. So just finalizing those last couple of things.
We've removed all the needles.
Yes.
All right. I move that we approve resolution number R-2020-2661, approving release and indemnification of Cactus Communications, Inc.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in Favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item 11 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2662, a resolution providing coronavirus relief funds to the purchase equipment and improvements at Legacy Park. Leslie Longner, our director.
Hello.
Hi.
Howdy.
What can I tell you?
Oh, we're looking at the list here.
Well, Leslie, you've been made aware that some of the items we went through and eliminated, took out, or reduced.
I actually have not been updated on what your questions or changes are, so
Okay, we took out the hot tubs.
we thought the water would be, helpful in burning out the virus.
Okay.
So.
Well, just for the audience or for people that might be joining us on Facebook, coronavirus relief is to help the county and the public deal with the impacts of the virus, but also prepare as far as being a safer environment. And so where Legacy Park is a gathering place, it was important for us to evaluate what sort of equipment could be purchased that would make it, so that we could have proper social distancing and the events could be carried on there in a safer manner. So as we reviewed, there were several items that. Now, do we want to list those items, or how does the resolution want to go as far as what we are approving and what we're not approving?
Yeah, well,
or
I
what
think,
we looked through.
We looked at the list, but really we need to have a discussion or deliberation
Exactly.
on the items that we have concerns about, or whether or not they fit the criteria for CARES Act.
So, the first item, obviously, we have some pull-down screens and stages that would allow people to participate virtually. We feel that does meet the Department of Treasury's guidelines for us. The power blinds, we're going to go ahead and I would recommend that they don't meet the
power blinds were put on there because we are striving to create an environment that has the right lighting, and so you can see clearly and get the video clearly taken. It's not got glares and other things going on. And so the power blinds are specifically, it says, for the Grafton building and for the upper windows that no one can reach, because they are at the very top of the walls, to be able to set the lighting, particularly in the morning and the evening, when there's just no way to get up there and handle that lighting other than to have blinds and no way to reach them other than for them to be remote control.
Mr. Chairman, may I make just a minor clarification?
Yeah.
I appreciate that I, for example, have had a chance to meet with each of you individually and look at some of these things. And I don't want to leave the impression that the items that that are causing some concern, that they don't somehow meet the standard.
No, yeah.
I think they all meet the standard, but what we have to do is triage. We only have a certain amount of CARES Act funding available, and we haven't even determined yet the full extent of where they will be applied and what those requests will be. So I would, Leslie, more like to reflect at least my conversation with the other commissioners as doing some triage and prioritization and making sure that we get the things that are most important in our minds now. And we could revisit this list later if we determine there are still CARES Act funds available and this is something that we want to pursue. Right now, we don't even know exactly what that picture is going to completely look like.
Understandable.
Because entities are still making application. And so with that clarification, maybe that would make a little more sense, Commissioner.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm certain that we can either look at the items that we've not stricken that we felt fell within the CARES Act definition of qualifying, or are you proposing that we look at this again later after she's...
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We may not have any funds left to look at.
Right.
I would propose that we look at the list that I know we all might have different ideas, but I visited with each of you individually, and there were some that I felt very strongly about. And
Right.
And I would actually just make a motion that the items on your list that have not been highlighted, that we go ahead and approve now.
I agree.
And then we can look at it later if we choose to.
And to back up the comments of Commissioner Cox is that, Leslie, we have seen you make an effort of what would make an ideal situation for people to enjoy something within certain safety guidelines for health, et cetera.
Yes.
And if you were to say, well, hey, we'd like to book this in this room at this time, and we'll keep the distancing, but it's too bright to see, or there's other modifications that you'd like to make. I think as time goes on, we'll keep this as a wish list.
Yep.
And even if it's not CARES Act, some of these
Yeah.
things might just be justified as general improvements. So don't think that if we eliminate something,
We're,
it wasn't because we don't recognize your
We're
thoughtfulness.
willing to pursue all avenues.
Okay.
And
And,
for the
we
pub-
recognize your hard work.
Yeah, well, it's
Thank
kind
you.
of,
The crews put a lot of work into this, but we don't think it will go to waste.
no, it'd be
Because
good.
it just means we seek other opportunities, but we have the information ready.
Precisely, and it's kind of it could be a wish list or, for Santa or something, and it's like the 5-year-old who puts a car on the list, okay, well, wait, can't drive yet, but, and so really we're looking at some of these items as futuristic to a certain extent, and then with the help of our legal team have said, that's perhaps marginal on what we can justify to the state auditor as far as CARES Act goes.
And that, to your point, so we have both elected county auditor, Kim Hafen, who is reviewing and helping us,
Yes.
as well as our county attorney's office, to really help meet the guidelines that the U.S. government and to the state government has given us. And so the other expenditures that we are not approving, it doesn't mean that we wouldn't approve them through another budget process. We're just not going to approve them through the CARES Act at this time. We just want to make sure that we're following the guidelines as best we can interpret them. So I do like the motion from Commissioner Cox. I think that's better than reading through each item. Of course, this is public record. This list would be made available for anybody who wanted to review it. So we have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve the items that are not highlighted on this list. All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item is consideration of resolution R-2020-2663, a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement establishing the ZRC coordinator and independent contractor, and addendum. And so we have an addendum to the agreement, right?
Yes, there should be.
So the Zion Regional Cooperative is a organization that brings together the county, the town of Springdale, the town of Rockville, the town of Virgin, the city of Laverton, and the city of Herkin. So the 5 communities that are basically in the Zion corridor. And Councilmember Weiss, is Tokerville part of that as well? Yeah. They want to be. They. Well, thank you. Well, I think we do have a resolution before us to enter into this agreement to participate in a contractor that would work with that council, and that's what we have
Well,
before us.
For sure, we see the value of somebody who every day wakes up and thinks, how am I going to help everyone cooperate on this corridor and get along, basically. And this is hiring a coach, so to speak, that brings us along as well as helps us to get along. And so there's a great value there to have someone focused on that every day. And so with that in mind, I move that we would approve resolution number R-2020-2663, a resolution approving interlocal cooperation agreement establishing the ZRC coordinator and an independent contractor together with the addendum attached.
And I will second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Yes, please. By the way, this is Councilmember Patty Weiss from Laverton City.
I'm so pleased that the county that you voted to be part of it, because really it is about the corridor, but it's about Washington County. It's about Greater Zion, and we've done some really solid work. And however we can inform you as commissioners, I think Commissioner Almquist, you're on board as kind of the county's.
Met with you out there, sure.
Yes, and if it means giving you a call after our meetings to give you an update, if you can't make the meetings, we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because like Kevin with Greater Zion, I mean, we play right into that. It's not really a separate group at all, so thank you.
Well, thank you for your great service and leadership. I appreciate that. With that, item 13 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2664, a resolution providing coronavirus relief funds and purchase equipment for the emergency service office. And Jason Whipple is here. Oh,
Bradley.
Jason Bradley.
A lot of Jasons around here.
That's a requirement to be.
I do.
It is.
It wasn't
An
that
important
I.
requirement. And I'm going to actually have.
I really thought you were Jason Whipple. I just, Kevin's head was a little bit blocking me, so I couldn't quite tell. I apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. Jason Whipple's unavailable due to being up north for our presidential debate doing EOD support, excuse me. However, I've been in the background on this project, so I'll probably have Chief Coleman do a lot of the explanation here for you. But we have two really key pieces that we're proposing here. The first one, our numbers we found out this evening were just a little bit off. First one is for a emergency medical team, if you will, to provide specific pandemic medical surge support, pandemic response. It's something that we have not had our own capability of. We've had some borrowed capability from the health department. They've had a trailer and had a borrowed trailer that is staged generally in Richfield. Basically, the concept, there's been a lot of discussions on what that would include, but that's going to include a number of trailers to haul this support equipment, which is medical support equipment and power generation tents for this medical surge. Obviously, this type of concept has benefits to us in other ways, but this would provide us with capability that we have not had of our own in this entire pandemic. Ability to provide support for hospital, health department, or even event support if there were something that this pandemic. The better number, I don't know what number you're looking at.
You have this sheet?
I have a sheet, but Chief Coleman and I were discussing a different number because we're missing a line item on the sheet that I have before me and that he has, which is supplies. And we calculate that to about 60,000 additional. So for $5,072,000 would be the more accurate number. That sheet is missing the supplies. And then, Chief, did they have the communications numbers before them?
Well, and we did, like we talked about at Legacy Park, go through this entire sheet.
Okay.
I just wrote in supplies. However, like that, we modified, eliminated some, and modified other numbers. Do you have those?
I do not. I don't have your modifications.
We can give you one. And again, we went through the same sort of matrix about the CARES Act, what might be justifiable with them as well within those guidelines, as well as what we thought would give us a suitable amount of equipment, trailers, tents, to apply sort of a level of service throughout the county and or to events or in response, even when we're called up for help somewhere else from another medical team, like you said, or we're first responders to a certain degree on some events. But the idea was this would be the dream list, and yet we cut that back.
Understandable.
Commissioner, I would also say if supplies were missing on the list, we have a commission meeting in 2 weeks that you can submit another request for,
Yeah.
but we can't consider that on this agenda.
Probably have to.
Oh, that's right.
Probably have to add that, and then maybe even break it out a little bit, what supplies are.
Okay.
Not down to every Band-Aid, but you know what I mean.
Are there questions we can answer regarding this proposal or project?
I think you gave a pretty good explanation for behind justifying each expense or request for expense. And then, like we talked about in our other one, it was important for us to discuss this with the clerk auditor, also with our attorney, and then also reviewing other needs and demands. We do have, I am ready for some sort of discussion or motion on it.
I would just like to comment that I would like to recognize Commissioner Almquist's initiative in trying to develop a stand-up medical team that we could stand up in case of almost many different kinds of emergencies or even events like Ironman. And I also appreciate the fact that Commissioner Almquist came and met with me and discussed some of his ideas on how this would be. And again, what I felt from my conversation with him was that these are all really good things, but it's probably a bit more than what he has in mind, at least right now. And so I'm assuming that you've also had a chance to do the same thing with Commissioner Iverson. Maybe you could take just a second and tell us what you would recommend, Commissioner Almquist.
Well, we have items on this list that are, some are in sort of a light pink and others are white and then others are yellow. And the white items, we all agreed were necessary, and we're going to, of course, look forward, for example, the portable generators that we had talked about. Now, the second item down, which was the portable surge shelters, I thought those were approved, 2 of those, from our meeting individually, because that's the point of it, is to have the tents.
Well, I think you defended the desire to have a couple of them very well, and I think that 2 of them would help out in many ways. For example,
so here's what, if we just go down the list briefly, it's much shorter than the one from Legacy. Sorry. We felt like the 10 ambulances were not necessary at this time. We felt that the 2 shelters were. The 2 portable generators are certainly necessary. The light plant, we did not approve at this time, but the balloon lights, 4 of those we did approve. Then we looked down at the EKGs and we approved 4, so that'd be 2 per tent instead of 40. We looked at the defibrillators and I think we said none, because they were, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what we had agreed to, or was it, or did we say 2? Some of these are
I think it was the ventilators that we scratched, but
Yes.
we were going to keep the defibrillators.
Okay, so yes, the two defibrillators, yes. The ventilators, no. We're not trying to get that technical. By that time, they're at the hospital. The CPR compression machines, I thought we were talking about hands-off ability to apply that, and we said 2 of those.
Yeah.
Because they can be COVID-friendly by applying those CPR compression machines. And then we approved 4 of the rolling toolboxes and 2 of the trailers, since we are not buying as much stuff. When you come back with your supplies numbers next week or 2 weeks, you might see just what that would accommodate in the 2 trailers. It was my understanding, Jason, that the 2 portable shelters actually came on a trailer.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
That those trailers, the ones that I think I showed pictures of to the committee that was doing this, I believe, were purchased separately.
Okay.
They're big trailers because they're pretty heavy.
Fair enough. So those are the items.
So you're moving to approve those
as-
items as you've listed them.
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 14 is...
Jason, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jason.
Thanks,
Didn't mean
Jason.
You want this list, Jason? I marked it up, or maybe you did too. Okay, as long as you have the numbers there, great.
Item 14 is Commissioner's Report.
Do we have an emergency services sort of? All summer long, it seemed like we've been inundated with one rescue after another. And I was wondering if either Sheriff or Chief wants to tell us how that's going. Two already, okay.
I understood everybody was quarantined and staying home.
They can't be out there.
Active countywide, I appreciate search and rescue. As I was walking the gym trail to take a biker who went off the edge today. Resources a little bit thin, so sometimes the chief has to get off from behind his desk, and search and rescue was very efficient in showing up. We were able to extricate them from that area and to the hospital, and not many hours later on top of the sand dunes. If you haven't been on the sand dunes, I recommend you stay away this weekend. It's very full, very active, and a lot of accident potential, and we had 2 individuals that were injured on the sand dunes today, one of which we took to the hospital, the other bandaged up and sent home with mom and dad.
Okay.
So it stays very active in the county, as was pointed out by Commissioner Iverson. That road from Salt Lake is very full. Used to be on Fridays, now it's about Wednesdays through Monday, and they're enjoying the county quite heavily and recreating and sometimes not using the best of wisdom. So anybody who wishes to go to the back countries and recreate, we just ask that you do so safely. Remember that you're in an interface area for a reason. You went there because the services aren't sitting there. Unfortunately, we don't have an operating room for IHC on top of the sand dunes or on the gym trail or up towards Zion. It takes time to get from point A to point B. We just recommend all those who want to enjoy our area do so safely with wisdom and discernment. But they remain busy. There was a debate this morning, 147, I think is what the debate on the trail was, 147 rescues for search and rescue so far this year. And I'd like to say fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of those are in the service area for Hurricane Valley fires. We appreciate that they're there to help.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
You know, one of the things I really appreciate is how well our emergency services departments work with each other.
Yep.
And it's truly one of those situations where there's real synergy, and together you are stronger than you are individually. And I saw that, for example, at Sand Hollow on the Wave Runner collision that was recent, how well everything just came together and harmonized. And I hope the very best for that young 11-year-old boy.
Thank you.
Very good.
Address that, Chief.
Commissioners were delivered some wonderful pink T-shirts. They've become quite popular. If you see firefighters from around the county wearing pink T-shirts, it's in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Not many people know that Washington County has been impacted by cancer. I guess we do. Especially if you lived here in the 50s and early 60s, you've even had special dispensations from the federal government on cancers. But this county's been touched quite tenderly through cancer throughout the years, and we have several that are still struggling that we all know and love. And so firefighters, different departments throughout the county opted to wear pink T-shirts at breast cancer awareness. Probably less knowledgeable is that almost every month of the year has a cancer awareness to it. So out of the 12 months, 11 of those, there's a cancer or more that's defined as that month to be aware of that cancer. For firefighters, if we wore shirts for the cancers that impacted us greater than the general population, we'd have to wear a pink t-shirt 8 months out of the year. So you have a fact sheet before you that shows the cancers that impact firefighters. As you can see, some of those cancers are double what the general public would suffer from. So we try to convince our firefighters to operate safely, to wear their protective gear, and then get out of it as quick as they can and decontaminate so that we cancer growth among firefighters. So just want to make you aware that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and that we are supportive of all those who have suffered from.
Well, and you often enter a building and you don't know what's in it.
No, unfortunately, we don't, and our law enforcement partners are the same way, and over the years, we've had several of them that have suffered from some of those very unique and rare cancers, and there are many that we know and love that have been that either on the law enforcement side or the fire EMS side that have served this community well, suffered because of their service, so.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Just one quick comment. So many substances such as carpets and furniture and things like that, as they get hot and decompose in a fire, they break down into all different kinds of poisonous compounds.
Yep.
And I appreciate our firemen and all they do to keep us safe and the risk that they take to do so.
For sure.
Very good. Well, with that, we're going to conclude our meeting. I'll just make the note that this is rebroadcast on TDS cable, channel 22 and 108, high definition at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. It is also available on YouTube and the community education channel. And with that, we will stand in adjournment.